Field of 68 after dark, Sirius XM, Channel 84. Folks, it's been a fun first half of the show. We got about 20 minutes left, and we have a big 20 minutes. Coming up in about 8 minutes, we will play the blind resume game. Rob Dauster has his pencil sharpened. Doug Gottlieb is ready to roll. Randolph Childress is very good at this game and has already won this game. He took round one over Rob. So we're going to play the blind resume game in about 8 minutes. What do you have?
Pencil sharpener. I'm ready.
I have my dry erase board ready, so I can.
Yeah, you better be ready. You better be ready. That's coming in 8 minutes. Okay, so
Doug's doing some math over there already.
Yeah, well, let's do a
the
little
only
bit of
math
math.
we need to have right here.
Doug, for our radio audience, has written Goodman sucks. So, which I heard that all last week in Providence for about a half hour, and Jeff was a great sport as he usually is with the fans. Okay, so the NCAA selection committee releases their top 16. The 4-1 seeds: Gonzaga, Auburn, Kansas, and Arizona. Your 2s: Baylor, Kentucky, Purdue, Duke. There's your top 8. I'm not sure if it's within that top 8. I'm not sure if it's on the 3 or the 4 line. Out of all the things you saw in that top 16 reveal, Doug, what stood out to you the most?
That Kansas is a 1 seed and Kentucky is a 2 seed. Like, what are we doing? Right? The math is supposed to help you determine who the better team is. Okay? Because it's really hard to compare Gonzaga and their front-loaded schedule with teams in the traditional Power 5 leagues and their back-loaded schedule, right? It's really hard. So that's what the math is designed for. Okay? But I don't need any math to tell me that Kentucky is better than Kansas. I saw them kick their ass. It was embarrassing. Bill had no answers for it. It was, and you could say it's a bad matchup, whatever. And frankly, it's like, also, what is your best? But the big thing is the 4-1 seeds, part of it is about earning it, right? There is a portion about earning it, but it's like we're blind to they were leading Auburn, Ty gets hurt, right? So it's not that Auburn doesn't get credit for that win, but the loss, that's not a loss that should hurt Kentucky, right? The SEC is better than the Big 12. I think I love the Big 12. Top to bottom, it's one of maybe the best conference in the country in terms of top to bottom, but the top is not close to as good. I saw Baylor get their ass whooped. I saw Kansas get their ass whooped. Those are the 2 best teams in the league. I don't need to see any more. So I don't understand why we have really smart people that they fall back on the math. Like, while the math tells us that they're not better. And it wasn't in November. It wasn't in December. That game was in February. And Kentucky was far better. And I just use that as on the micro. The macro problem is we have a tendency to rely on the math so much. And especially in a year like this, where you've had COVID shutdowns, you have massive injuries. Like, I'll give you a team. Florida State was winning the ACC. Okay. I called their game last night against Duke. They had 0 of the 5 starters in that game. How do you evaluate Florida State? And maybe more importantly, how do you evaluate a win versus Florida State or a loss versus Florida State, considering who's on? Like, the math is impossible. Just use your brain. Who's better, Kansas or Kentucky? Kentucky. Ask anybody. At Randolph, coached, played. Who's better? Kentucky, right? So what are we doing? That's my question.
Okay. Randolph?
I was told there wasn't going to be any math.
I mean, how do you? I don't have a rebuttal to that. I mean, he's right. I mean, I said it early. We were talking just a minute ago. I think Auburn and Kentucky should be 1 seeds. I don't care what happens in the SEC championship. My eyes tell me they're 2 of the best when healthy 4 teams in the country.
Here's the telltale. So I've been obviously doing this, I think, longer than everybody else, right? Okay, so I'll never forget this. It must have been 2005. Okay, I only know 2005. I don't have some savant-like memory with the years and stuff, because it was the first year of ESPNU. 03, 04, 05 was the launch date. That's how I remember. And Washington was a 1 seed. And I'm from California. Okay, my brother and sister hold degrees from UCLA. My brother, up until the time he left Oregon State, was the longest tenured assistant in the Pac-12. Okay, so I love West Coast basketball. But I was like, why is Washington 1 seed? Like, well, the math. Everybody's shouting me down. on the bracketology show after the brackets released. And you know what I said to them? It's the same thing I'll say to everybody now. It says, you don't like Kansas. I love Kansas. Bill's a good friend of mine. Okay. But if Kansas and Kentucky are in the same bracket, who do you think is going to be in all these guys' brackets? And all of them that year had Washington losing in like the Sweet 16. Like, oh, I thought they were a 1 seed. Like, no, well, that's the math tells you what. No, 4 best teams in the country.
Okay. Okay. So then let's see what the math tells us, because we're going to play blind resume game after the break. But before we do, we're going to have an appetizer round right now. I'm not giving you their net. I'm not giving you the net rankings. I'm just going to give you some numbers. Okay. So team number 1 is 10-3 against quad 1. They're 5-1 against quadrant 2. They have a combined 15 quadrant 1 and 2 wins. They're 5-0 against quad 3. They're 2-0 against quad 4. Team number 2 is 6-5 against quadrant 1. 4-0 against quadrant 2. 4-0 against quadrant 3. And 8-0 against quadrant 4. Which team do you like more from a math standpoint?
I'm gonna say number 2 because I figured out what you're doing here, fan.
Yeah.
I'm too smart for you.
Right.
I figured out what you're doing.
Here's the problem with quad 1 and quad 2. Where they play home and road. Home and road. I mean, it's college basketball. Home and road is big. Time of year when the games were played to me is big.
Of course.
You know, I would based upon the math, team 1.
All right. So team 1 was Kansas. Team 2 was Kentucky.
All right, I got that one right then. All right, look at me. There we
Dauster
go.
gets a half point, Waddell. Give him a half point. We're going to play blind resume game. Which bubble teams should be in right now, which shouldn't be? We'll play the game, then we'll get some explanations to close it down on this Sunday night. This is Field of 68 After Dark on Sirius XM, Channel 84.